Hello friend. I want to tell you about the Dacia Logan car. What engines were installed? The Dacia Logan engine range was taken from the Renault Clio 2 and 3. The car was presented in 2004, but it was launched in many countries in 2005, so the Euro 4 standard was already in force. The Euro 5 standard was in force in 2011, but all engines were prepared for it during the model's modernization. Logan was powered by naturally aspirated petrol engines and a 1.5 DCI diesel in various versions. In general, the engines did not change technically throughout the production period. The main thing that changed was the power. It is worth emphasizing that Logan was offered with a factory LPG installation, so I include it in the classic list of engine versions. You will also find detailed information about which engine met which standard. Exceptionally, I provide the power in kW so that it can be checked. All engines were fitted with manual, 5-speed gearboxes, most often designated JH3 or JH5. These are French gearboxes, common to Renault and PSA cars. Which engine to choose? Basically, every engine is good in terms of operation. It is worth noting that the 1.2 engine is not significantly weaker than the 1.4. You will only feel the difference in dynamics with the 1.6 unit, especially the 16-valve one. On the other hand, the 1.6 16 volts is the most technically advanced petrol unit in the range. Petrol engines are generally divided into 16-valve, 1.2 and 1.6, and 8-valve, 1.4 and 1.6. The latter are technically simpler and better tolerate LPG fuel. If you are buying Logan because of its low price, it is also worth taking a look at the engines. 8-valve are cheaper to run and potentially more durable. As for diesels, the differences are only before and after the facelift, when the FAP particulate filter was added. Diesels with FAP are potentially more susceptible to expensive failures, such as piston burnout or head cracking. Apart from that, there are no major differences. When buying a Dacia Logan, in my opinion, you should only consider two things: the technical condition of the car and the emission standard that the engine meets. The choice of engine itself is not significant, especially since they all burn similar amounts of fuel, approximately 7 to 8 L, 100 kilometers. Depending on the purpose of the car and its price, you should consider LPG power. Factory installations from Landi Renzo are of great quality, but engines can be destroyed by autogas. If you want a cheap budget car, it's worth looking for one with factory LPG. Typical faults. The number one enemy of this model is corrosion. Unfortunately, although the car is manufactured in the Renault factory, the quality of the sheet metal used is not the same. What's more, customers leaving the showroom with Dacia Logan did not pay that much attention to additional protection against corrosion. Because the car was too cheap for additional investments, it was not really worth it. Rust affects not only the bodywork but also the chassis, so you should carefully inspect it before purchasing. The most important thing is of course the chassis, because body elements can be replaced. You shouldn't expect the interior to be in good condition either. It's often very worn, plastic parts are broken, and the upholstery is torn. Usually, however, cars work because there aren't many parts that can break down. The situation is slightly worse with the electronics controlling the ABS system. It does not always work, as well as the electrics of the dashboard or lights. The brake light switch often fails, but replacing it is a small expense. It should be assumed that after buying a Dacia Logan, almost everything in the equipment and electrical system can break down, but the car rarely fails completely and usually reaches its destination. Petrol engines do not have any faults or failures that cannot be foreseen. One of the recurring ones is the ignition coil failure, quite typical for the entire Renault family of K7 and K4 series units. Oil leaks occur quite often. All petrol engines have a timing belt drive, which is replaced along with the water pump. What's worse is that the timing drive needs to be replaced every 90,000 kilometers. It is similar in the case of diesels, although the manufacturer here provides for replacement every 120,000 kilometers. However, this is not the main concern of users. The bigger concern is the failure of the injection system, as well as the potential risk of seizure of the bearings on the crankshaft. In extreme cases, the crankshaft may seize and the entire bottom of the engine may have to be replaced. However, this is not a reason not to buy a Dacia with a 1.5 DCI unit. The engines are already well known to mechanics, but also to users. Most cars that are in use will still be in use for a long time. Remember to change the oil regularly every 10,000 kilometers and check the condition of the crankshaft bearings from time to time. It seems like too much maintenance, but it is worth it. Especially since the 1.5 DCI rewards you with very low fuel consumption, approximately 4 to 5 L, 100 kilometers. Some drivers complain about the condition of the gearbox. These components are not particularly durable, but they are also not expensive to repair. Sometimes the problem is not the gearbox, but the control mechanism. The construction of the car is so simple that even operations such as removing the engine or gearbox should not cost a fortune. Thanks for listening to me. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and rate my video. If you know any problems with this car that I didn't mention, be sure to write about them in the comments.